Good day everyone and welcome to Exile News, the weekly show that brings you all the important news and information on Path of Exile. And if you haven't had the time to play the game yet or maybe watch this video, this is the VOD for the latest patch, actually the first patch of PoE2, which is the patch 0.1.1. And well, I definitely recommend to watch the first few minutes of this video where you can see the trailer for the patch. And then when it goes into the Q&A, you can definitely boot up your game and have the Q&A in the background, just listening to it. I mean, there's nothing to watch there, but I do think it's really interesting to hear the discussion. And GGG is always open and very transparent about what they did and why they did it, and the experience they had with the game, if it's the same as people or it's different. So it's definitely interesting to hear their thoughts. And yeah, if you listen to one of those, you really realize that they do play their game, they do care, and they do what's possible to make a good experience, even if sometimes it's not the choice that the player wants. And I mean, that's what being a developer is, after all. And also, one thing that was asked, and GGG was really transparent in answering, is the data breach thing that happened. So you might have seen on Reddit maybe some posts about people being hacked, and what was going on basically is that one PoE account was linked to an old Steam account and was created by a developer for testing a long time ago, and through a chain of things, one malicious account was able to get into basically one PoE account which had the developer powers. And so what happens is basically 66 accounts got compromised. Now you can read the details here. Basically, here's what was stolen, and well, some people actually got their account kind of cleaned up of anything of value. I mean, it's just the start of PoE2, so it's not like you lost anything too big, and you cannot lose microtransactions anyway, so it's not that huge of a deal, but it kinda is. I mean, a malicious actor breached into GGG, so that is not good, and GGG is upping their security after this has happened. And again, you can check the details here. GGG has always been quite transparent on these things. And let's get to the patch notes now, which, I mean, there's a lot of things here, and I feel like, and many people also feel like, they tackled a lot of very important things, starting right away with 4 new towers maps. So we got the Lost Tower, which also has been revamped. It's much better now, and we got 4 new tower map areas, giving a bit of variety, which is obviously really good. We got Alpine Ridge, Bluff, Mesa, and Thinking Spire. And also they addressed the problem of only having one attempt at the Arbiter of Ash, which requires a lot of time to get to. So now at lower levels of the Arbiter, you get 6 portals, and then they reduce the number of portals when you get to higher difficulties, because by then you should have learned the fight. Of course, if you just destroy the boss before he even does anything, that's on you, and you probably don't even need to learn the fight for the next difficulties anyway. So they also added checkpoint to map areas, which is really good. If you get, for example, to the end boss and then you find out that you forgot a yellow monster like at the start of the area, well, you got checkpoints. I feel like there's also a checkpoint around the middle of the zone, so that is definitely really good. Map areas also containing a minimum of 3 rare monsters. Definitely decent change as before, like you could maybe have none, I don't know, but even getting just 1 rare monster will make your map basically useless, since rare monsters do drop a lot compared to normal ones. And well, citadels have been way improved, like they now appear closer to the Ziggurat Refuge, and they actually are visible on the endgame map UI. So if you see a column or a pillar of light coming out of the fog, you know that's a citadel. So yeah, that is huge for finding them. You can see there's a lot around the areas you've explored, but the chances that you would get there without knowing they're there are really, really slim. So this is definitely a good change, actually giving a direction for players in the end game to go to. I feel like this is one of the major changes of this patch for those who actually do play more than like a few maps, I guess. And they also display the biomes of the map when you over them in the Atlas, and this is very big for that point that you have in your Atlas passive skill tree, which has different bonuses depending of the biome. Like before, you just prayed that it was the good one. Now you can see and you can plan accordingly. There's also a new precursor tablet, which actually creates map bosses and has roles exclusive to affect those maps bosses. So that is definitely really interesting, especially if you're one that likes to map boss rather than just clear the map. There's also more bosses in general in the maps. Like they realized that they wanted players to encounter a boss like 1 in 4 maps, but what was happening, it was like 1 in 10 or something like that, and yeah, they fixed that. As a result, of course, bosses do drop a little bit less, but yeah, it's definitely a good change. I do enjoy bossing in this game, as this game was built, I honestly think, more for bossing than for actual clearing maps. I mean, clearing maps is just a copy of PoE 1, and it's already gotten to that speed, basically, which is a shame, to be fair. But I mean, everyone has their own opinion, so we'll see how we go starting from here. I do think it's way too fast right now in any occasion. But anyway, and a couple of other improvements. There's been very few skill changes. One is actually a nerf to maces, which is really fun, where Supercharged Slam has a cap to the radius that you can get after each successive Aftershock. I mean, is anyone even using Supercharged Slam? I don't know. But Scavenged Plating has been buffed, as you get a number of stacks depending on the rarity of the enemy. So unique enemies grant 10 stacks. This actually allows players to sustain Scavenged Plating even against bosses, which is pretty damn good. And then they nerfed a little bit Temporalis Armor, which can no longer reduce skills below 100 milliseconds, meaning you do not have instant blink, but slightly instant blink. And I mean, that's honestly fine. It was expected. And there's also some changes to monsters. A lot of these are just reducing the damage or improving the visibility of monsters, which is definitely really good. Like a lot of these are actually very good changes. There's also a lot of general changes as improvement. For example, you can now migrate from the solo self-found league to the corresponding parent leagues, which is pretty nice. Drone boxes have been like accelerated, and there's less fog, which is honestly really good. I still think they're pretty shit, and they do spawn monsters like over edges in other rooms and all the kind of stuff. So I don't know. Drone boxes is one of the mechanic that could have just been ported the same it was in PoE 1, and it would have been fine. But I don't know why they try to fix that instead of something else. Still, they're improving on that, so that's good. Another thing they're improving on is charms, and I don't know, it's another one of those things that I don't really like, as now they play an effect when your character is using one of those. I haven't heard that, maybe I didn't activate mine, I don't know. Still think charms are not in a good spot right now, but again, they are improving, so that's pretty good. You can also salvage flasks, so now if you needed bubblers, this is definitely a good thing. And a big one, which is just hidden in here, is the armor has been made more effectively by approximately 15%. Now, what these mean is not clear. And is this better for smaller hits, bigger hits, both, none? Unclear. The only thing that seems clear, if you've watched, for example, Criparian's video about armor, yeah, it's the fact that apparently the formula itself got a little bit of a change, and what this means is that the formula applies to the monsters as well. So monsters are approximately 15% harder to kill with physical damage, which is kind of fun. This is supposed to be a buff for like armor characters. It seems to have been a buff to monsters, so I don't know how that's going on, but I mean, early on, this might be a problem for some characters, especially those using physical damage. And another very big change is the reducing of visual clutter in many maps areas to improve visibility of skills and effect, as well as improving the visibility of actual explosions and things that circles that are going to explode and those kind of things that are happening under monsters. I mean, beforehand you weren't completely able to see any of those. Now some of those are much more visible, which is good. I mean, they still have to work a little bit on that, but it is pretty good. I mean, the direction is good and it's getting better. There's also a lot of improvements. I mean, generic one, of course, continue to improve art, sound, effects, and environment. I mean, it wouldn't be a GGG patch without this line, and we know that. There's a lot of unique item changes. I'm not gonna go over any of those because it's way too much and it's light changes. So, I mean, you can check those if you have a favorite unique or something, or maybe you're using one unique and you want to know if it's still alive. Most of those are buffs anyway, so it probably is better than before, unless you were using some very top tier uniques. I don't even think there's any top tier uniques that have been changed here. Anyway, there's also a lot, and I mean a lot, of bug fixes. So you can check those again if you want. One that I'll mention is the fact that if you're playing Titan, if you have the extra satchel in your inventory, so the extra inventory space, now that space interacts with the other part of inventory, interacts with the vendors, interacts with your stash tab, things that before were not able to be done. So definitely a huge deal, and well, there's a lot of fixes which are pretty great. They also, one thing I forgot to mention is they also reduced a little bit the damage and improved the visual of the tornado for the bird that spawned in the Trial of Chaos. And yeah, that should be better now. I'm not sure how much better. I'm gonna try that and see if I can ascend to my 4th one. We'll see. Still, there's a lot of controller improvements and bug fixes, which is really good, but the biggest thing for controller is the fact that item filters can now be used on consoles, and that is absolutely massive. It's pretty fun to see one video on Reddit of a guy in a high level map doing breaches, and the screen was completely filled by items. So yeah, item filter definitely needed in that case. Couple localization fixes, a lot of microtransactions added, and a couple of things that have not been added, but the GG is definitely working on. One is making Yuna's song work correctly. For some reason that doesn't work yet. Adding the multiple respawn things to other Pinnacle content, except the Arbiter of Ash, which already has it. And hopefully the map stash tab, which is really needed if you're doing some heavy mapping. That is definitely huge in saving you stash tabs and other things. So all in all, a huge patch, very huge patch. Not tackling balance yet. They probably want to do a full reset, an economic reset and everything before doing a huge balance patch, but definitely tackling very important thing, very important problems that the game had, which actually made the game really hard or obnoxious to play. So yeah, this is quite a patch, and I guess I'll see you in game. That was all for this week. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and a comment down below. Also, if you want to remain updated every week, be sure to subscribe to my channel. That was all. I've been your host Giorgio, and I'll see you guys the next time.